Hey guys, John Breeden here. It is February 19th, 2020. I'm obviously here to talk about the Ryan Newman incident, the horrific crash at the end of the Daytona 500. I'm sorry I haven't done an audio update in the past day or so because if you saw my Instagram post, I said that I wanted to hold it off until Wednesday when there would be more information available about the incident, and I wanted to let as much information come out before I, talk about the incident or, speculate about anything. So, with that said, over the past day or so now, we have received a lot of good information, a lot of positive information about Ryan Newman's condition. About an hour or so ago, there was a post from Chrissy Newman, of course Ryan's wife, saying that he was released from the hospital. And there was a picture of Ryan holding hands with his two daughters walking out of the hospital. And 2 or 3 hours before that, there was also another picture of Ryan in the hospital with his two girls. So that's probably, the best photo we've seen in the past couple of days. It's the best news we could have gotten. So as of right now, it is 5:18 on the East Coast. So any news that comes out after that time, it's obviously not going to be recorded on him. So the latest I have is that he was released from the hospital, and he's in good spirits. And the post earlier, when it said that it said he was walking around, he was joking around, and he was playing with his daughters, he just continued to improve. And it's all good. It's all good signs, obviously, because Monday night was a horrific crash. And I'm just going to cut to the chase because obviously, if you're listening to this, you know what happened. Ryan Newman had a devastating wreck on the last lap of the 500. And I want to kind of talk about, I guess, my perspective and what I was thinking at the time. So, the race is going on, and there was, half a lap to go, and Newman got out front. And I thought, man, it looks like Newman's going to win. He was pulling away from Blaney a bit going into turn 3. And Blaney kind of backed up a little bit, got to the bumper of Denny, and they came off 4. And Newman threw a block on Blaney. He went down and threw a block. He got hit by Ryan Blaney. He went into the wall. Now, when I was watching this, I think it was about half and half as far as who was watching Newman's car in that moment and who was watching the Hamlin and Blaney coming to the line. And I was watching Hamlin and Blaney coming to the line. I saw the first impact, kind of out of the corner of my eye, but of course I was focused on who was going to get to the finish line first. And so I did not see the second impact with Corey LaJoie until they showed the replay, which was not until a little time afterwards. And so I thought, man, of course, Denny Hamlin won, and I thought at that point, then they showed Newman's car, and it was sliding down the track, and I thought, man, that was looked like a nasty wreck. And at that point, I didn't really think anything of it at that point in time. And they, the safety crews were kind of putting out the fire. There was a little bit of a fire. There were some sparks. And all I could think was, man, Newman, he's going to be mad at Ryan Blaney. He got turned, 1,000 yards from the finish line in the Daytona 500. I thought, man, he's going to get out, and he's probably going to be really mad. And all of a sudden, it was like they went to commercial, and right before they went to commercial, Mike Joy said, we'll have an update on Ryan Newman when we come back. And I thought, okay, that was strange. So he's injured. He's injured in some sort of way. And when they came back from commercial, I can't exactly remember when they showed the replay. They may have talked to Denny before they showed the replay, but at this point, so much has happened in the past 48 hours. It's a blur at this point, but I'm pretty sure they showed it after they interviewed Denny Hamlin. And Mike Joy, right before they showed the replay, they said Ryan Newman was taken out of his car and he's being rushed straight to a hospital. And I thought, okay, this is like, what's going on here? This is really serious. And watching the replay and just seeing the slow motion of Corey LaJoie hitting Ryan in the door, and just seeing the car give way the way it did, I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I thought, man, that was a really bad wreck. And I immediately went to Twitter, and they were posting that, they had put black screens up when they were taking him out of the car. And then, like right before Fox went off the air, they showed Mike and Jeff in the booth. And Mike Joy was pretty much holding his composure. And Jeff, you could see the tears in his eyes. You could hear, his tone of voice was very subdued. He looked terrified. And I just thought, oh my God, like this is really bad. And I don't want to be, I apologize if this sounds blunt, but from that point, I thought Ryan Newman was killed. I thought he was killed on impact, and at that point, I was completely numb. I didn't even know what to think at that point. So between them showing the black screens and the announcers, not only the way Jeff's demeanor, and the fact that the only information we had was he was extracted from the car and he was taken to the hospital. Nothing else. He wasn't, Ryan Newman is awake and alert. Ryan Newman is, not even like Ryan Newman is breathing on his own. Nothing. It was just Ryan Newman was taken to the hospital. And at that point, I was completely numb. And I thought, I can't believe this is happening. And so for the next 2.5 hours or so, I didn't do anything. The only thing I did was I was on my phone, I was on my Twitter, and I just did nothing but refresh. For 2 straight hours, I sat on my phone and I just refreshed, and I refreshed the feed. I couldn't even watch. The only time between the incident and when it was announced that he had serious but non-life-threatening injuries, the time that Fox showed it was the only time I watched the replay, because I couldn't bring myself to watch it at that point. And at that point, when Fox went off the air, I was ready to break down. I thought I just witnessed the first death in racing in 19 years. And I couldn't believe it. And like most fans, it was unbelievable. And it was the way, just the way the crash looked and everything. When the news came out that he was going to survive, that was almost just as unbelievable, because just the way the wreck was and the way the scene was after, it was unbelievable. It was a miracle that he survived this wreck. And, it was just unbelievable. And, I know this has been mentioned probably many times, but, as safe as NASCAR is, there's always that risk of something going wrong. And Ryan knew that risk. He knew before he got into a race car that there was a chance. There was a chance that he could be seriously hurt. And that's what happened Monday night. And I think a lot of people, myself included, you take for granted, because of all the safety procedures and because of, the reason that, you know, the fact that a driver has not been killed in 19 years, you take for granted the danger of the sport. And Monday was definitely a wake-up call that, this stuff, no matter how safe these cars are, it can still happen. And, like I said, I feel in a sense I took that for granted because, like I mentioned, when I saw Newman's wreck, I didn't really, it looked like a bad wreck, but, you see so many wrecks where, the guys, they just get out of their car and they're okay. And even though it looks really bad, they're fine. I mean, if a prime example was the Austin Dillon wreck. I mean, as devastating as that wreck was, he got out, and I think he had some sort of forearm injury, but it really, he was fine. He got out of the car immediately. He was okay. The Kyle Larson Daytona wreck a couple of years back in the Xfinity Series. It's just you go so long and you see these wrecks, and everybody gets out. And so when this happens, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And a lot of people I know said that this wreck reminded them of when Dale Earnhardt was killed. And there were a lot of things similar on Monday night to this. Obviously, the severity of the wreck. I guess I wasn't even a year old at that point when Dale Earnhardt died, so obviously I did not live through that. But I've went back and I've watched documentaries. I think there was one FS1 did. It was called The Day of Remembering Dale Earnhardt, and they documented that day. And I've even went back and watched the old broadcast and the way that they immediately went to commercial, and they weren't shooting Earnhardt's car, and the announcers didn't know anything, and everybody was really subdued. I mean, there were a lot of things similar to it, but at the same time, I think people in that instant thought, this is a bad wreck, and Earnhardt is injured, but, overall he'll be, he'll have maybe some injuries, but he'll be fine. And when it was announced that he died, it was so shocking. And this one, I think people were shocked. I think, for me, I was shocked that it happened, but at the same time, it was seeing the severity of the wreck and everything that had happened. The tone of the broadcast and the subdued victory lane celebration and everything like that, I thought, there's no way he survived this. And so to get all of this positive news that, at one point, he was in serious condition, but, he's going to survive. And then, you hear the next day that he is talking with doctors and his family. And then today, just very recently, he was released from the hospital. So it really is unbelievable that he was able to survive this wreck. And I was thinking, when it happened and after it was announced that he was okay, I just thought, man, if anybody could have survived that wreck, it would have been Ryan Newman. I mean, Ryan Newman is, one of the strongest, toughest guys in the garage. And the guy is tough as nails. He's a hard-nosed racer. And I just thought, man, it's like I think somebody on Twitter said, he's one tough customer. And he really is. It was absolutely unbelievable. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, that was kind of my perspective. I was just, at the time, I couldn't believe it happened, but, up until it was announced that he had survived, Like, I really thought, there's no way he survived this wreck. It was just so devastating. And, you know, like I said, between that period, I couldn't even watch it. I couldn't watch it. And, I mean, at this point now, I've seen it many times. Whether I was watching NASCAR America last night, I was watching NASCAR Race Hub last night, and of course they were showing it, and it's just, I was thinking, this has to be the worst wreck I've ever seen. I mean, you could argue that the Austin Dillon wreck was worse as far as impact, but I don't think so. I mean, as far as, he was hit right in the driver's door, and it was just horrific. And the fact that he didn't get out, I think, just makes it even worse. Obviously, makes it worse. And so, yeah, it was horrible. And nobody expected it. And, obviously, Ryan Blaney and, Corey LaJoie. I saw some people, obviously just stupid people on the internet, for one, talking about Denny Hamlin's celebration, which I won't comment on that. No, it's Wednesday now. If anybody is still complaining about that, I mean, it's ridiculous. There have been multiple apologies. They didn't know that it was severe. No comment on that. It's just ridiculous what people are saying on the internet. But, I think a lot of people thought initially, and myself included, I thought Ryan Blaney had turned Ryan Newman at the line. And I thought, and that's why I thought, man, Newman's going to be mad at Blaney. And if you watch the replay, and in Ryan's interview, he said, our bumpers got locked up. I was just going to push him to the win, a forward win. And if you watch the replay, it really looks like that's what happened. I think Blaney was going for the win, coming off 4, but he got blocked by Newman. He went back to the inside and he got blocked again when Newman came back down. But it was really, that second block, they were really close together. I mean, Ryan was right on, Blaney was right on Newman's bumper. And so I think it was just a thing of, from that point on, I think Ryan Blaney thought, okay, well, he blocked me once. I went back down to the inside. I still couldn't get by. So and anybody else would have just said, well, you blocked me twice. I'm going to turn you now. But I think Blaney was like, well, I couldn't get by. And he's like, I'm just going to push this guy to the win. And unfortunately, and honestly, I mean, when you think about this whole incident, it's like, that's like the saddest part of it, is that, Newman he had made a great pass going down the backstretch on Denny, past Denny. Nobody thought, Denny was going to lose. Denny is such a great restrictor plate racer, and he had passed him, and it looked like he was going to win his second Daytona 500, and then this happened. It's just, that's one of the most heartbreaking things about it, is, he was literally like 1,000 yards from the finish line, and he got wrecked. Well, I mean, Ryan Blaney didn't wreck him, but he got involved in a wreck. But it's just, and it's horrible. And I mean, as far as Corey LaJoie goes, I mean, I think, I don't want to try and speak for LaJoie or Blaney or compare their what they feel right now, but I would imagine that Ryan Blaney is probably feeling worse about this situation than Corey LaJoie, because Blaney was actually right on Newman's bumper when it happened. And as far as LaJoie goes, I mean, he had absolutely nowhere to go. I mean, he was going 200 miles an hour, and in a matter of, a second, a flipping car is right in front of him. So, for LaJoie, I mean, he just had absolutely nowhere to go. And for Blaney, I think, he's probably not taking this as easy as what, LaJoy might be. But, like I said, I don't want to try and, compare how they feel about things. But I think, you all get my point on that. But, yeah, and as far as Blaney goes, I mean, the people saying he wrecked him, I mean, he didn't wreck him. And listen, even if he did, okay, you're looking at a checkered flag in the Daytona 500. And, drivers have been trained. I don't want to say trained's probably the wrong word, but, these drivers know that on the last lap, all bets are off. And especially in the final 1,000 yards of the Daytona 500, all bets are off. And like I said, Ryan Blaney, if it's clear if you watch the replay that he wasn't trying to wreck Newman. And so, I mean, that's what happened. But at the same time, even if he did, I can't really fault Ryan Blaney because, it's just what happened. And it was just a racing incident. And the same goes, obviously, for Corey LaJoy. So I don't think anybody should be given blame for this. And it was just a racing deal. And I'm sure Ryan Newman feels the same way, probably. So that was my perspective on everything that happened. I'm certainly hope everybody listening is doing all right. And I mean, this was so traumatic, and it was such an unfortunate ending to what was a great day. I mean, it was a great race up until that point, and it was just really unfortunate. It was an unfortunate situation, and obviously now at this point, we can be glad that Ryan is back home now. He's out of the hospital, and it looks like he's going to make a full recovery and possibly get back to racing. At this point, we still don't know what Ryan's injuries are. I mean, I think it actually came out yesterday that, he had some bruising and bleeding in his head, or, so I think it was just bruising to his head. And so, but that's kind of really all we know about it. Like I said, I don't want to speculate on Ryan's condition, but obviously it seems like he's doing very well, and it appears to me that we're gonna see him back in a race car at some point. When that will be, obviously I don't know, because like I said, we don't know we still don't really know his injuries, and so we can't really set a timetable. And obviously, I mean, this is secondary to how, to Ryan's health. I mean, obviously that is, the number one important thing here. But I know Ryan, and, well, I don't know him, but you know what I mean. Ryan's a racer, and Ryan's going to want to come back, I'm sure. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm sure as a racer, anytime you hear that a driver gets in an accident or gets hurt, more often than not, when they do an interview or whatever, when they come back, they say, okay, when can I get back in a race car? So, basing off of that, you would think that Ryan at some point is going to want to get back in a race car. And I don't know. We'll see. Ryan Newman is, towards the end of his career. And so, I mean, maybe he doesn't want to take that risk again. And, absolutely more power to him, because, as I mentioned, I think Ryan's health is first and foremost before racing, before anything. And I'm just glad to see that he's doing all right, because Monday night was it was horrific. And I'm just glad he's all right. So, and I mean, obviously now, I think the question is, what do we do? What's next? What's next as far as super speedway racing, what's next as far as safety equipment, what's next for the future of NASCAR in general. And I don't know the answer to that. All I know is they did in fact take the Ryan Newman car and the Corey LaJoie car to the Research and Development Center, and I absolutely know nothing of what goes on there, but I can only assume that, whatever happens there, they're going to try and figure out, okay, how can we make the driver's compartment more safe? Why was this such a soft spot when it got hit? Why did it cave in the way it did? And how can we prevent this? And like I said, I don't know the answer to those questions. Whether it's I don't know what they can do. I don't know if they can add like a second roll cage type thing. I don't know what they can do. They're obviously going to have to do something, because this is a wreck. This wasn't just, a flip and, everybody was fine, or this wasn't like a hard hit or whatever, and, whatever. This was a wreck that, could have almost killed a driver. And, it really almost did. And so, as safe as NASCAR is, I think it's safe to say, no pun intended, I think it's safe to say that NASCAR has gotten lucky a couple of times as far as wrecks go. I mean, you look at that Austin Dillon wreck, and you look at that Kyle Larson wreck, and you just think, man, it's like, especially the Austin Dillon wreck. The Austin Dillon wreck, listen, like, it doesn't matter what safety equipment you have in that wreck. I mean, that car looked like it exploded when it hit that fence. I mean, there is nothing, there's nothing keeping him from, if that car just disintegrates, I mean, what do you do? You know what I mean? And, I was about to say there's nothing he could do, but obviously they have safety equipment. Obviously they have Hans devices. They have helmets. They have everything that kept Austin Dillon safe in that wreck. And, all the safety equipment that kept Ryan Newman alive. But at the same time, these cars are getting airborne. And, I think the question is how do we stop this? How do we stop from cars getting this airborne? And I don't know the answer to that, obviously. Quite frankly, I don't really think there is a way to prevent it. I mean, you can think of all the precautions you can, with whether it's roof flaps or whatever it is, but cars, when they're going 200 miles an hour, and when somebody gets turned like that, from 200 miles an hour to a dead stop into a wall, it's like, something's going to happen. The car's going to go upside down, and it's going to face oncoming traffic, and it's just going to happen. So, as far as the research and development goes, I have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, I think there's going to be new safety features that are put in. What those might be, I have no idea. When they will come about, I have no idea. It could be in a couple of months. It could be next year. But I am confident, though, in NASCAR that something will in fact change. There will be some sort of safety features put in to prevent, to at least try and prevent from something like this happening. Because the reality is, everybody, I think what I was trying to say earlier with the Austin Dillon wreck is you can put as many safety features and as much safety equipment on these drivers and on these cars as much as you want to, but the reality is there's still going to be there's still going to be risk of incidents like this. And I think Monday was a big wake-up call to that, because this was a devastating wreck, and it almost took somebody's life for the first time since Dale Sr. And it was unbelievable. It was surreal, and there needs to be put more stuff put in place. And I just remember during that time, the time that I was just completely numb, and I was bracing for the news that Ryan Newman had passed away in the crash, because I felt it coming from, all indicators pointed to that, whether it was the black screens going up when he was getting in the car, or the tone of the Fox reporters. I just felt it coming, and obviously I was overjoyed and pleasantly surprised that he was okay, and I was very thankful. But my point is, in between that time, I was thinking, super speedway racing, it has to stop. It has to stop. And the reality is now, thinking about it, it's very dangerous. But at the same time, I mean, there's not even really any point in saying, yeah, you know what, super speedway racing, it needs to go. Because the reality is NASCAR's not going to do that. They're just not going to do it, I don't think. And so you have to try and think of scenarios in the confines of what NASCAR might do. And what they might do, I have no idea. As far as super speedway racing goes, as far as safety, I'm very confident that we're going to have new safety features, whatever those might be. I'm sure it's going to have to do something with the driver's compartment, or, the helmet, whatever it might be. So, I mean, but as far as super speedway racing, I have no idea what's going to happen. The new package that came out last year at Talladega, which has promoted, more pack racing. I mean, perhaps that needs to go. Perhaps that does. But, at the same time, you can say that, but, Monday night's incident, those guys weren't in a pack. I mean, it was just 3 cars there, and they weren't in a huge pack. This wreck didn't happen in a huge pack. But at the same time, I mean, it's the cars. I mean, the answer is it's the cars. And what do you do about that? And like I said, I don't have an answer. And hopefully in the coming weeks, months, maybe years, NASCAR does address that. And like I said, I am confident that something will come of it. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it besides, like I said, I'm very grateful that Ryan Newman's okay. It was the scariest, worst incident I've ever seen since I started watching NASCAR back in 2005. It was the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't even really know what else to say, but I do want to address a few nitpicks that, I think morons on the internet want to bring about. The incident, somebody had posted a photo of when Newman's car was up in the air and circled the B pillar of the car and said, well, that's Ryan Newman's helmet that was outside the car. And I want to come on here and absolutely deny that, because if you look, it is obviously not the helmet. It's a blurry picture, so you could make it out to be a helmet. It was the left B pillar of the race car. I mean, the entire driver's side was pretty much smashed in. When you watch the wreck, I mean, it just looked like the roll cage just gave way, and it was a terrifying wreck. But as far as Ryan Newman's helmet being outside of the car, that's not true. I know it was reported. Another thing that just made me go completely numb and just think that, there's no way Ryan Newman survived this wreck was, they said they were giving Ryan Newman CPR when he got out of the car. And if you watch the video that the person posted, it did appear that Ryan Newman was being given CPR, but after the news came out that he survived, the reports were denied that he was given CPR. So that one I actually don't know about. I just know about the one claim that, his helmet was outside the car, which was just absolutely ridiculous. And so, yeah, but as far as the CPR aspect of it goes, I mean, I have no idea. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. If you watch the video closely, though, it doesn't look like it. It looks like perhaps, one of the safety crews, they might have been pulling down on, one of the straps on the bodyboard, or adjusting something on the gurney they had Ryan on, whatever it might have been. But I don't believe they were giving Ryan Newman's CPR. But yeah, I wanted to address that. Obviously, I've talked this entire show about Ryan Newman. I just did not feel it was appropriate to really talk about anything else. And I mean, quite frankly, I didn't really want to talk about anything else either, as far as reviewing the race or anything like that. But I mean, obviously, just to briefly mention, obviously Denny Hamlin won the Daytona 500. It was his third Daytona 500 win. Becoming the fifth driver to win 3. He beat Ryan Blaney by, I believe it was 14 one-thousandths of a second. It is the second closest 500 finish in history. Saturday's race, by the way, Daytona 500, obviously it was rained out on Sunday. After 20 laps, they moved it to Monday. Saturday's Xfinity race, Noah Gragson won his first career Xfinity race, a race that actually ended under caution, and so he won that. And then Friday night, Grant Enfinger won the Truck Series race over Jordan Anderson in a photo finish on Friday night's race. So that's the update there. I do have news, though, that I actually forgot to mention. Ross Chastain will in fact replace Ryan Newman in the 6 car for supposedly further notice. It said he was in at Las Vegas. Perhaps they're going to maybe switch drivers around. I have no idea. Maybe it's just going to be Ross Chastain. I don't actually know, but I did see that Ross Chastain is going to replace Ryan Newman in the 6 car, at least for this weekend. So that's the update there. They are in Las Vegas this weekend. Yeah, I don't know really much else to say besides the fact that, I think, you may have saw my Instagram post about Ryan. I kind of put a message up there that, whenever I was at the racetrack, anytime I go to Martinsville, I get like track passes and all the drivers come by, and I pretty much have a picture with, almost every driver now. And believe it or not, Ryan Newman is actually one of the few drivers I don't have a picture with. And I kind of put on there that, whenever I would see Ryan Newman at the track, I would just think, I don't know if Ryan Newman is like a selfie kind of guy, so I don't know if I'm going to ask him for a selfie or anything. But, usually when I would see him, I would just kind of played off cool in a sense that, what's going on, Newman? And, usually I would just fist bump him or shake his hand, and, I would tell him good luck. And I remember I was there for my birthday 2 or 3 years ago at Martinsville, and he wished me happy birthday. He wished me happy birthday, so I do remember that. It was very, very cool of him. He's just he's one of the fiercest racers out there. He'll, the past couple of years especially, if he's even if he's going a lap down, man, he's racing everybody as hard as he can, and man, it's something else. I just couldn't believe, I think it was 2017 Dover, when, Chase was, I mean, my goodness, Chase was about to win his first race, and he's 2 laps away, and Kyle is like some odd seconds back. He was like 0.6 back, and it's like 2 to go, and Newman is just blocking him. He just blocks Chase, and Kyle goes by and gets the win. And it's like, what in the world? But, I mean, that's just Newman. I mean, Newman races you as hard as he can every single lap, and, he's won multiple races. He's won a Daytona 500. He was runner-up in 2014 in the Cup. It's just, he's a hard-nosed racer, I don't even know what else to say. And, like I said, when I was sitting there that night, I was just thinking, if anybody can survive this wreck, man, it would be Ryan Newman. And he did. And I'm very, very thankful that we've gotten some great news over the past 2 days. And all the best to the guy, all the best to him, all the best to his family. I certainly hope we see him in a race car at some point again. But more importantly, obviously, his health is more important than anything. So I wish him a speedy recovery and hope to see him back on the track soon. So that's that, everybody. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. So if any other news, by the way, comes up, I'll kind of do like a breaking news audio type deal where I'll just come on here and talk for a few minutes on whatever the news might be. I'll probably give my thoughts. Other than that, I will be back on Friday to talk probably a little bit more about Ryan Newman and the whole situation. But obviously try and transition into talking about this weekend. This weekend is a big weekend for NASCAR. We have Friday, the Truck Series race, Friday night. Saturday is the Xfinity Series race. And then Sunday, of course, we have the Cup Series race, all coming from Las Vegas. So it is a big weekend, and we're, of course, still thinking about Ryan Newman and his family. So that's all, everybody. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, at NASCAR Images, at John Breeden9 also. My Twitter, at John_R_Breeden. And that's it, everybody. Have a great week. I'll talk to you later.